Welcome back to the What You Want More podcast. Today, I'm joined with an amazing guest. I'm super stoked about it. Lead singer of Saliva, Bobby Amaru. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
I'm glad to be here. And yes, we're friends, we're neighbors. And I like to think of myself more of a musician than a rock star, because I've had my fair share of fun rock star. I've got rock star stories for sure.
Well, I'm excited to get into some of those for sure. As we get into this, you've been with Saliva since 2011. You had a career prior to that. And as we get into this, we were talking pre-show of that music career that you've had thus far. I always like to find out what got you to this level. Well, how did you get here from the very start?
Being a kid is when I got into music early on. My dad was in bands. My grandfather was a singer too, like in New Orleans area. And I just grew up in a music family where there was constantly records on the player and a house full of music. So I would say that I got into it at an early age, and drums was the first thing that I picked up. It started there, and then as I got like older, I wanted to be a drummer, man. I wanted to play drums. The 90s rolled in, and it was like Alice in Chains, Nirvana, a lot of that movement. And so I just remember MTV. I watched MTV all the time. And
that's back when they showed videos. Back when they played music.
Yeah, and I wanted to be a musician. That was it. There was nothing else I wanted to do. I would daydream about it. I'd be in school, and I needed to be studying for a test or something. But I was thinking about music.
Man, I tell you what, it's interesting because I think of every kid I know growing up, everyone wanted to play the drums to start. When did you find your voice, though? Obviously, you're being a drummer. When did you find your voice? When did you become more of a vocalist versus a drummer?
Drums was my first thing, and then I moved on to guitar.
Okay.
And then started learning guitar and playing guitar. And I would say vocals came later. I didn't know that I could sing. Maybe I still don't know if I can. But I would say for me, just playing at people's houses, people started to take notice of that. I was already in a band playing drums, but maybe I should try something different. And I like to write songs. So I was writing songs, getting more into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it turns out you're in a band, and then the story goes, I've heard you say it numerous times here, you get a text, right?
Yeah.
And fast forward to 2011, you get a text, and the lead singer at that time is departing band, and the band's looking for a new lead singer. Text comes through, and then you're not really auditioning, but you're showing what you can do with the band. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're in 2011 moving forward. You guys are doing your thing, releasing albums. And in that time, what would you say as you were doing that? Was there any challenge you had to overcome? And not necessarily from the departing of a band member, but any challenge you had to come being a new bandmate of a band that maybe had been coexistence for a while?
Anytime you replace a singer, that's difficult.
Sure.
It's very, very tough, especially when the band has sold a few million records and they've been around a decade. You never really know what's going to happen. I didn't know. I had tons of experience with being in music and being signed and making records and things like that. But I hadn't really done a whole ton of extensive touring. And I knew that this was a band that was going to tour a lot. New singer, you're going to have to go tour a lot and kind of start over. That is essentially what we did. Now, I didn't know that when I got in this band, I was going to inherit all of the problems from the other guy. A lot of issues with a lot of turmoil and upside down, a lot of radio stations blackballing the band over things and just stuff that had happened in the previous decade. But I was up for the challenge to go and try to salvage a lot of that and turn the band around. And I've been here 12 years, and I feel like from then till now, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And continue to grow and try to grow the brand in even more broad audience as well. Like with the trying to get some of the younger kids on board, not just fans from day one. You want to try to you want to get the kids, man. The kids are the ones that are really going to stick with you too, you know?
Yeah, so building that fan base of longevity, bringing new ears to the band, as you think about it. Like for me personally, I look at anytime you have to step in to someone else's, whether it's job position, whatever you want to call it, you're always falling into the previous baggage that was there or decisions that were made that, you have no idea you're unbeknown to, but you're walking into it, which kind of describes the radio situation there. And it sounds like you guys handled it like pros, man. And I got to tell you, we rode with you guys down there.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was a great time riding with. We had all the fams on there. We're having a good time going down there. You guys take the stage. The lights go down, the lights come on, and boom. This group of individuals I rode with are not the same people on stage at that point.
Yeah.
Y'all brought your A game on that point. I look
right.
at my wife, I'm like, did we ride with these guys down here?
Yeah.
It was awesome. Talk a little bit about that. You have that I don't want to say alter ego, but that's almost what it appears to be when you step on stage, man. All of you guys are different in a good way, man. You bring that energy, man, and you bring it. There's no, oh my gosh, they're off tonight. Friggin' bring it.
If I go see a band, I expect the same thing.
Yeah.
I want them to bring it. And I feel like you're shorting the fans paying money to see you if you're not giving it your all. You shouldn't be on the stage if you're not going to give it your all. I get people get sick and things like that or whatever, because you have to take the road. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of yourself. But if you're up there just half-assing it just for the paycheck.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Right now, we got a tendency that's going on in the world right now. Fans are coming. They're throwing shit at artists on stage. You've seen it from Bay Rex, got hit in the head with a phone, had to go off stage, got stitches. You've had Pink had some ashes of a family member delivered to her, not her, but the fans' family. I think Harry Styles just got something thrown at his eye.
Yeah.
I think there's even more. I've seen more going on. There's more. Brian Adams just got rushed off stage. This is going to be a trend of what's going on. And you've got a lot of artists that are, I just saw Miranda Lambert lash out at a fan for taking a selfie while she was trying to sing, and then Adele's done her thing. What's your thoughts on this? We got fans that are paying money to come see a ticket, or excuse me, paying tickets to come see a show, but your rights have to stop somewhere. You shouldn't have the ability. What do you think? Throwing shit at people on stage while they're trying to perform?
I'll never understand why people do that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're intoxicated and just looking for a laugh, but it's never been cool. I've had things thrown at me. I used to play baseball, luckily. So I had someone throw a bottle at me one time, and I saw it in my peripheral vision and
Caught it
with my left hand.
Hell yeah.
And there's a video of it. It's pretty hilarious.
That's awesome.
But yeah, things like that. But it's very, I don't know. I don't know why people do it.
Do you think it's a respect thing, or do you think people just have gone, they just lost their sense because it's just like, what can I make a TikTok? What can I make a reel on? Is this the world we live in? This shit's been,
I would say more like that.
Yeah.
But it's been happening forever.
Really?
Yeah, people have been getting shit thrown at them on stage for.
Who pays? I just
You put that
like,
many people in one space, in one area. You know, it's somewhat,
but do you think it's
they're
done
not all winners.
Do you think it's
you know?
Do you think it's done out of like emotional dislike, or do you think it's just done out of emotion of I'm just raging because of this concert, like I'm pumped, I'm just doing this, so I feel I need to throw something?
I don't know in what getting pumped up, making you want to throw something at the artist on stage makes sense, but there's been tons of things. People take it too far.
Yeah.
Dimebag Darrell from Pantera was shot on stage, one of my favorite bands. The guy literally was just a lunatic and decided he was going to plot to go and kill him on stage in 2004.
Jesus.
Yeah. And that was the nicest dude on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, nicest guy in the world.
Good Lord.
And,
yeah. It's
but what possesses someone to do something like that?
And I feel like it's completely desensitized by social media. The stupid shit that people encourage other people to do, which is just human decency. Just be nice, man.
I saw a video. Anytime I see something negative, I always delete it, or I don't want to see this, or hide it, or whatever.
Yeah, unfollow or not even follow.
I just don't want to. Yeah, because what it does is when you watch stuff like that, that's how it works.
They feed you more of it. You're constantly modeling for your kids. A lot of people, whether you know it or not, you're the model. You're modeling behavior for your children right in front of you.
I want my kids to know right from wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you 100% there. And it's tough when you're parenting against other parents' skill set. That's one of the biggest challenges as a parent is you're parenting against other parents' leniencies and tendencies. And that's tough. And that's a whole nother conversation in itself, but very tough. Speaking of like modeling behavior, is there anything you would have done differently in your career from where you are now to where you started?
No, man, just because I feel like the universe puts us on these paths, and any negativity and negative things that happen in your life, I believe they're just like stepping stones to something better. Every bad relationship is just, in your next one, you're not going to look for the same thing. Already been there, done that. You're going to try to swim against the tide. And I feel like that's what life is. So I think like everything that I have done has led me to where I am, and I wouldn't change it. I met my wife in 2016 on tour, and being in that place and in that moment in time, I feel was something, had I not been there, I would have never met her and wouldn't have had, all this, she's had such a positive reinforcement on my life. And I just, yeah.
Yeah. Amber's good people, man. Right on with that. Personal relationships, decision relationships aside, is there anything in the music record industry in particular, maybe signing, maybe the deals that were struck, anything you would have done differently?
Oh,
there?
no, that shit. Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah.
So what's an example of something or what's a lesson learned there? What's something you
How
learned?
many? I've signed several deals, and I always feel like anytime you sign a deal, no matter what it is, you're getting some way.
Yeah.
It might be on a lighter note. It might be you're getting totally thrown in the wolves' den. The first deal that I signed was right out of high school, 2001, with Elektra. We had a bunch of different labels that were interested in us. So when you have that happen, almost a bidding war kind of thing, your lawyer negotiates a higher deal for you, which essentially just means more committed money.
Okay.
We're going to give this band each guy $100,000 or whatever. And then the record budget's going to be not 300, we'll make it 400.
Okay.
We'll throw an equipment budget in there. We'll do all this stuff. They sweeten the deal for you. But what you don't realize is they're taking essentially everything. You'd have to sell 1 million records just to pay all of that back.
So you're in debt to the record label the minute you sign that deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So you're in debt to them. It's a one-sided transaction. They lure you in with this, let's say, signing bonus is what you get up front, and they put you on tour, but they finance everything. They finance the tour. They finance the venues, everything.
And used to, back in those days, labels want the artist at the mercy of them. Like they want you need them.
Okay.
Because they have MTV on lock, they've got radio on lock, they've got all that stuff. And they've got to go pay those people to play your shit and to make you famous and get you popular. So you have to, you basically sell your soul to the devil to do it. And what are you going to do when you're a band, you're, a kid from Jacksonville, Florida, just got out of high school and
yeah, you can't finance all that usually. No one's got that kind of money.
No, man, I'm going to go be a big rock star, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to fucking be famous. I'm going to be huge, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you learn the hard way. It's a lot. It's not as easy.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's a lot.
And then you're committed to X amount of records with them, right? Usually.
Oh, it's options. So they'll say, we're going to guarantee you one record with 87 options or some bullshit like that, which means that they have the right to, we'll do another one, or we're going to drop you because you suck.
So they get the first right of refusal and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, they're financing all this stuff. And what is their interest accumulating you have to pay interest on that stuff they finance for you? Are you paying interest on the stuff they're fronting, like the money you owe them?
So you're only whatever percentage that you are left with is the percentage that goes back to recouping the money that you took. So it ain't like, oh, okay, so you sell this amount of records, it's going to pay back that $250,000 video that we financed for you. No, it's your very little percentage out of the sales that's going to go back and recoup. Yeah. Like Saliva, the first record with Click Boom and all that shit, there's still $1 million in the hole on that record.
That's unbelievable.
Still $1 million in the hole.
Jeez. Lessons.
They'll never recoup that record.
Yeah. So what's your lessons? What's your takeaway from something like that? You signed that deal. You signed multiple deals. You said you signed 7 of them. What's your take now as you move forward?
Try to own as much as your stuff. And if you've got something great going for you online, just be your own business, be your own label. There's a lot of things labels have done, and we know all of these bands that are and all these artists that we love because the labels, they did the thing. But there's also a lot of artists that, just didn't quite make it. Yeah. I guess it'd be like sports too. Sure. You look at it that way, like, only so many are going to go through, and, a lot of these others are not. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said. Crushing dreams, man. Yeah. And how much of like you were saying pre-show, like of your masters, like you're trying to keep 85% of. Well, so what we started doing was distribution deal, which not everybody can do that though. Yeah. If you have a brand and you have a name I feel like any band with a brand should do that and just have own their own masters and own their own shit. But it's changed.
Yeah, the game's changed. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's gone from still touring is still a thing. COVID put a pause on that. We'll talk about that in just a minute. There's the digital game has changed. Like, you're not selling records. You're not selling physical CDs. Some people do, but for the most part, it's all about streaming and downloading at this point, right?
Yeah.
And how has that changed? Like, how has that changed from the form of like royalties, and how's that changed in the form of basically streaming versus? Because I've heard from a couple of different songwriters. I was at the Bluebird in Nashville, and I was listening to a couple of songwriters, and they were telling the stories, and we had rented it out, and one of them had written quite a few songs early in the '90s, and she said her mailbox money paid for her house.
Yeah.
But she wrote some songs here in the last 5 years, and that money doesn't even come close. Songs are bigger hits. They've definitely had more downloads than she sold records, but doesn't even rival what was being made in the '90s during that time. What's the difference between then and now as far as that's concerned?
Back then, a physical CD was like, what, $10, $11?
Yeah, 10, $11.
And it all gets split up in several different ways. And, you know, your publishing company is she probably had a publishing deal who would go out and they would basically collect your money on your behalf for writing the song.
Okay.
So every time a song was on the radio, or if that artist, say you wrote fucking Garth Brooks hit or something, and which most people in Nashville, it used to be that way, where a lot of the country singers, they didn't write anything.
Right.
The songwriters would write the song, and the guy would perform, or girl would perform it, and turn it into a big hit, and they're making tons of money and touring and doing their thing, while the songwriter was making good money and making a good living and buying a nice house and stuff and getting the mailbox money. These days, though, record sales, physical, meant a lot more.
Okay.
Because $10, $11 times a million, that's a lot of money. Now, when it comes to the streaming world, it's like 0.004
That makes more sense.
per stream.
Gotcha. So it's a huge differential there as far as that's concerned. And there was a notion, they even made a comment. They said, obviously it's changed now, but they said when streaming first started, certain platforms paid, period, and some weren't paying at all. Some weren't even, they know it was being streamed and downloaded. They weren't even getting any type of funds on that.
Yeah.
Now, they said that's changed now, but when it first started like that, you can imagine having a song that you wrote being played and you're not getting any type of royalty on that because there's no tracking, there's no one advocating for that.
Because the streaming platforms, it's mechanical.
Okay.
It's mechanical royalties, which typically go to the artist performing it. So the songwriters are making back end on syncing, like TV or radio or physical sales and things like that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense because I was wondering where they were going with that. I'm like, well, God, you wrote the damn song. You should be getting paid for it. But they said streaming changed the game of how people did things. And, to your point, they also mentioned that's why a lot more artists are writing their own songs too. They mentioned that as well, that was something that was a little art that had changed because of that. You talked about teaching your kids and you talked about growth. You're 5+ years now of being sober, of sobriety. Congratulations.
This October,
This October. Congratulations.
5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I remember the very first time I met you, that was one of the things that you led with. You're very proud of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, kudos, hats off to you. Talk about how that changed your life. How'd that come about? What was that defining moment that made that be the marker where you said, this is what I'm going to do moving forward?
It got to a point where everything on the road or everything with drinking, it just was all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was like a blur. I'd go to Jaguar games and get fucking blackout or whatever. Yeah, I had some fucking fun times doing that shit. I'm not going to say I didn't. Or going to Mexico and drinking Corona and margaritas.
5 years ago during the Jaguars, that might have been warranted, by the way. You might have needed that to get through the season.
Absolutely. 2017 was a good year.
Yeah.
But I, for me, I think that I had, when you start drinking to get fucked up, there's a problem, I feel.
You go from casually to just
one.
You
I couldn't just have 1 or
100.
2. I was like, it had control of me at that point.
Yeah.
And when you're on tour and your hospitality rider is a handle of Crown every night, handle of Tito's every night, a few cases of beer every night, and you're playing 5 nights a week, and there's 8 to 10 people on your bus, you guys can mow it down for sure. But it just became a situation that I had to remove myself from that person. Yeah. And a lot of things were happening in my life at the time with a new relationship and about to get married. And I just didn't want that kind of, I don't even know how to really describe it. It's tough because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's different and everybody has their own battles and their own things that they're trying to, and how I quit, I just quit. I just woke up and that was it. Done.
I've heard that from a couple
never
people.
Again.
Seriously
and
about themselves.
I tried to think about the last day that I had when I was quitting. I was trying to figure out when the last time there was a day I didn't have a drink. And I couldn't.
Damn.
The only thing I could think of was remember being sick and having a really bad sore throat for a couple days. And that was it. But that had been like a couple years prior to that or something. Yeah. So I had a drink every single day for a few years or whatever.
Yeah. Do you feel like the clarity in songwriting, the clarity in your music, the clarity in your performances got better afterwards?
Not at first. I didn't, well, at least I didn't know.
Okay.
Because I knew how I felt when I was drinking before I would go on stage. But then trying to go and do it now sober, I was like, this feels different.
Yeah. Subconscious.
Yeah. It feels different, but it's fucking life. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with it and get through it and figure it out because I felt like for me, I knew that was going to be the better version of myself and what I had to offer. And for my kids as well, my family. And I just I had to cut it, man. It wasn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm against it or I'm not one of those, dude. I just, you don't want me doing it anymore.
Yeah. I can tell you two things. Number one, I've been at functions where there are people having drinks. You've been there. You wouldn't know any difference, right? You're blended in with the crowd, having a good time. And then the other thing is, I'll speak to another performance I saw you play at, and I never saw you but I can tell you that what I do know is you opened for a very popular band, and I remember you coming back and that lead singer telling you, I hate going on after you because the amount of energy and everything that you guys brought to that stage versus what that other band didn't bring. So you guys, I'll get back to you guys bringing it and doing it. Like, you're a hard act to follow. That's what I was trying to get at there. You guys do a really good job on stage, and you definitely haven't lost that edge. It looks like when you get on stage with your sobriety, not at all. And it was a cool thing to hear.
I had to find a way to get back into the zone at first when I was going on stage sober. It just took me a minute to, okay, I know how to ride a bike, but it's been a minute. Let me,
Yeah.
But now it's great. I feel better than ever on stage. Man. And it's the only thing that I would say that sucked when I quit drinking was all the damn sweets, man, that I picked up on, like
the sugars,
the cookies and the shit like that. It's like, fuck.
That seems to be a very popular thing people say when they're.
But I'll take it any day, man.
Take it any day out of that. Yeah. So, what advice do you have for people that are in the music business right now? Maybe they're new, maybe they're transitioning into that next level. What advice would you have for someone like that? Like, what to watch out for, or what to look forward to?
Man, it's tough. I think you got to surround yourself with people who are driven like you are and want the same stuff and want to be on the same page and. No egos. Keep the egos out of the room. And
that's a good one.
Yeah. And it's tough out there.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be a band. Everybody wants to be in the music business or be an artist and become an artist. And there's a lot of people that shouldn't.
Yeah. You said earlier, if you can keep your masters to yourself, you can do your thing online, go about doing it. You want to elaborate on that just a little bit further? What do you mean by that as far as if you were giving advice to someone?
Yeah.
They have a YouTube channel and they're out there doing pretty damn good.
Promote yourself and just try to do something different and try and keep it fresh for people to latch onto because the internet is so fast and people are onto the next thing.
Yeah. Speaking of internet, let's talk about this. Your daughter, Veda. Bro, she is absolutely lighting it on fire right now. She's 12 years old, just turned 12. And some of the stuff you guys are doing out there, it's not only unbelievable. Like, dude, I watched at least 5 of these.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the little girl down the street, honey? She's like, yeah, the pipes, dude. The pipes on your daughter?
It's like bedroom karaoke, dude.
Holy
it's
cow,
awesome.
it is.
Yeah,
It is like that. But you guys are killing it out there as far as views and likes and comments, man. Congratulations. And hats off to her, dude. How much time and energy is she putting into that on a daily basis? Because that just isn't wake up and let's go do that.
But we aren't really spending a whole lot of time doing this stuff because I want her to still be, she's a kid. She's growing and still finding herself. And I don't want to be like, oh, let's do this. I'm just trying to keep it fun for her. And some of those, man, she'll knock out 4 or 5 of them at a time. And it was like, okay. And then that's it.
And their first cut takes done.
We do some of these songs she'd never heard before.
Okay.
And even for myself, there's a lot of these songs that we're doing that I never thought I would sing in my entire life. But it's been fun. It's been great. But for her, there are certain songs that she hadn't heard. Mm-hmm. So then she's got to learn it. And but she learns pretty quickly, I think. And I think that's what's been great about this whole process is teaching her at the same time. I'm teaching her like how to sing harmonies, how to take it's your lead part right here, and then I'll sing this part, and then we'll come together. And it's just been fun overall to do that.
That's cool. Passing on that knowledge, some of your
your
experiences.
And I'm still fucking learning, man. Like I feel like there's things that I'm like, shit, I forgot about that. Or it's interesting, but we've had people like reach out. Like we've done certain covers, like Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park.
Yeah, that was cool.
He
forgot about that.
He had reached out to me and said, hey man, I think what you guys did with Numb is awesome. And I think it's awesome what you and your daughter are doing. And that's like the cherry on top for me with this whole thing. Cause working with her, there's nothing better than that. That's worth all of it. You know what I mean? All the people that are taking notice and have become fans, and they hit us up and they're giving us song suggestions. I'm looking at all that shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I'm like, it gives me ideas on what songs we could do as well. But then when guys like that take notice, Jared Leto.
That was a cool one.
He reposted our...
He remixed it. That was cool.
Yeah, he reposted our TikTok on Father's Day. Said, Happy Father's Day. I mean, that's fucking awesome.
That was cool. That was his song you did too, by the way, right? Yeah, 30 Second of Mars. That was really cool. And just to bring our audience up to speed. So what you guys are doing is you have a studio in your house, and you call it bedroom karaoke.
Yeah, it's a very small studio. I got my desk, I got my iMac, and I got my couple compressors, and that's it. There's nothing.
But you guys
fancy.
take these iconic songs, multiple genres, by the way.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love. It's not just all in one lane. You go multiple lanes with it. You bring it into her style, and you help with it, and you guys recreate it and you do it. And I mean, it really shows off her range in a lot of different ways. Shows off the creativity of the two of you guys. But what's cool is, to your point, watching the two of you jam out, like yes, I know you're father and daughter, but you look like two artists,
right?
You know, just out there doing your thing as if you were just making your own funny TikTok just to put out there to kill time. It's so natural and it's so fluid. I think that's what the audience enjoys too, to the tune of millions of people commenting and liking on this stuff. It's pretty damn incredible when you take a look at it.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep up. I try to answer some comments and stuff, and most is so positive and overwhelming and great to see. And I was watching some where people can do duets or whatever, and some of the videos, dude, it was mind blowing, dude. It was somebody like using the cover you're doing, the song, and they're in Ukraine, man, and you're seeing like the shit going on there. That's real life shit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, the fact that it's actually reaching someone there, filming with their phone what is going on in Ukraine.
Dang.
But they saw that and they're using that song, that Linkin Park cover or whatever it is. It's just like, fuck. Every country imaginable, people reach out to us, and it's been awesome. And I try to, like, all the messages I try to respond to and try to just let them know it's thanks for, because this is just something that I had no idea it would do this. But just singing in a room with my daughter.
That's awesome.
And it's kind of...
I'm always talking about, like, what kind of legacy can I build or leave for my kids? What can I do? And so Charlie and I, we talk about this podcast. This is essentially like a time capsule for for both our kids, that you're leaving with cool interviews like this, and we're talking about things that, man, they're not going to want to listen to this right now. I mean, they might. I doubt it, right? But there's going to be a time in life, if I was to make a journal and write stuff down, dude, they would never read it. Probably couldn't read my handwriting to begin with, but never read it. But, dude, this will live on forever. And what you're doing online with your daughter, that'll live on forever, man. And you're building, like, this legacy, but you're documenting this journey with her online. It's pretty darn cool to see. And it's, you know, kudos to you guys, man. I definitely think it's awesome. A little envious of myself here, the relationship that you're building and doing stuff. It's really cool, man. Congrats
especially
on
through
that.
something that we both love. It's hard to do that. As a parent, like, how do you get on the level with your kid? Because it's like usually like, Dad, no, But for us to be able to do it, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for my daughter and my son and my baby.
No,
So
man,
we're
that's
gonna-
super. That's awesome. You see how passionate you are. You're lighting up right now in the interview,
Yeah.
and we're talking about this. And you are a very humble person, and you're a super genuine person. In the time I've got a chance to know you and seeing a lot of the things you're doing here, but also you give back in a big way too, man. A lot of the stuff you do for the troops, the shows that you and your band put on for the troops, the give back there. Even during COVID, you guys posted up real quickly and did some streaming stuff to help raise money. And hats off to you guys for that. That's a really cool thing you guys do, and not everybody does that.
Yeah, and the military's always supported Saliva as well. Like some of the craziest stories I've heard but like the greatest stories are like we always every night, I always thank the military, U.S. military, and because there'd be guys that would say "Click Click Boom" was their song, that was their combat song. They go do missions, and that was what pumped them up and shit, dude. And Iraq and Afghanistan, all this stuff. You hear that stuff. This is fucking real life.
That's real life, yeah.
That's real life shit. Because the things that they were seeing over there, I'll never see that. I'll never be able to match that. But the fact that I'm part of a band that created a song that affected them in that way, that's what fueled them to go out and protect our fucking country.
Yeah, provide that blanket of protection we go to sleep with every night.
It's like, it's incredible, man.
Yeah, man. That's
music is like, somehow, when I'm on stage, I look at the audience, I'm looking at these people. I'm like, I know these fucking people. They are not going to agree on the same politics. They're not going to agree on the same fucking what food they like or what drink they like, or there's a lot of shit they're going to disagree with, but they're all here and they're all happy. And music has brought them here. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I've never really thought of it like that from that perspective. But when you say it, I'm like, yeah, dang, makes sense.
Yeah. They're probably shit talking on the internet to each other, and they don't realize they're in the same fucking room, like,
Enjoying this moment all coming together.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about this before you came on the show here. Like, during COVID, like, we all lived on Me Island for a little bit, thinking about ourselves and just like being quarantined for a little bit, depending on what part of the country you were in. Sometimes you were quarantined a lot more than other parts of the country. But like artists, musicians, people that are used to touring, like that definitely shut everything down. And the toll it had on artists and people such as yourself. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what was that like during that time?
It was tough because we had our whole 2020 we had 3 tours lined up. We had 80 shows or 90 shows lined up or something like that.
Wow.
And it all just boom, gone. And a lot of other bands, I don't want to, pour me, but I'm just saying that so many other people and businesses, I'd say, had it worse and had it was just like a hard time just overall.
Yeah.
But for us as a business, as a band who uses touring to live, and that was definitely opened our eyes a little bit. But we had to figure out a way to be creative and use that, turn it into some sort of creative lane. And so working on a record, like the record that we're dropping in September, we started working on it in March 2020.
Oh, wow.
So,
well, that makes sense. You got downtime. You want to be productive, positive with it. During COVID, and thanks for sharing that, because I got a chance to witness some of that. I actually got a chance to know you and Amber better during COVID. And one of the things that I noticed about you is, dude, you're an avid horror fan.
Yes.
Dude, like no one I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I was joking earlier, like, you give me a run for my money. I used to own the block on Halloween, and now I'm a distant second right now. You're an avid horror fan to the point, I don't know if I thought you were shooting a music video in the back of your yard one night. And I don't know if you recall this, but you were watching Halloween on this huge screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just you and the kids, and then you end up inviting everybody over,
Yeah.
and you had this huge Halloween set going on back there.
Yeah.
And it was super cool, and everybody came out there and watched it. But that's when I really got a sense for, man, this guy really loves Halloween. Like, he is a horror fan. And what blew my mind is, I remember asking you, I was like, "What's your favorite horror movie?" You remember what you told me?
What did I say?
Scream.
Oh, I was about to say,
Yeah, you said
because
Scream.
I
And I'm
think
like,
that is.
Yeah, you're like, Scream. And I was like, Scream? Like, out of all these movies, and we're watching Halloween, it was funny because to me, that was like a newcomer horror movie there in the late 90s or something like that. But man, you went on about it, man. You were like, dude, there's something about,
Scream was brilliant because it was more real life. But Wes Craven had done Nightmare on Elm Street and shit like that. And in the 80s, when I was a kid, I grew up on all that, and then Jason and all. I loved all that shit. But Scream is probably one of the best, just fucking hands down written.
Yeah.
Most likely to happen.
Most likely to happen.
Most likely, it just felt more real.
Sure.
That could happen at fucking any school.
Yeah.
Two dudes get together and they decide they're gonna start killing their friends and shit.
It was a weird plot. Yeah. But I mean, obviously it was a huge hit. Everybody watched it. It was a good movie there.
Yeah.
But
I like that franchise. A good one.
Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah. And I think that I was telling Aaron that night when we walked away, I was like, I have a whole new respect for, I guess, horror movies and what people think. Because I always think it was like just thrillers. So you broke it down pretty much like you just did right there.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, no wonder he's so good at Halloween over there. I was like, he's definitely into it, man. So I was laughing because that night when you had Halloween playing in the background, we got a neighbor. His name's Michael, right? We all know who he is.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike. He's going to get a kick out of this Hitzman. But his alter ego is Michael Myers.
Yep.
And he walks it to a T and does a great job. And I remember you had this playing. He caught wind of it. He comes around the backside.
He scared the living shit out of me.
Scared the living shit out of you. Posed behind the thing and scared the living shit out
Yeah.
of you over there waiting on that. That was like his biggest thriller moment. He loved it, man.
Dude, literally made my insides jump. Had no idea he was doing that.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was creepy because it was so real.
Yeah.
So it's cool, man. Man, I'm so excited about what you're doing with your daughter, man, Veda. It's congratulations, hats off on that.
Thank you,
Can't wait
man.
to see what you guys go from there. You want to talk a little about the album that's coming out in September?
Yeah, so it's called Revelation. How we came, Wayne, actually, my guitar player from Saliva, he passed away in March. And we had already had everything like done. Record was done. Cover was done. And we were tossing around names. And it's something that he came up with. So he named it that and Revelation. And it just, that's it. That's when unfortunately, he passed away in March. And I had this like blur there for a minute. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wasn't really sure what to do. He was like my best friend for the 12 years I've been in the band, and almost like a mentor as well. Just a great overall guy, man. I don't know if you met him. Did you?
Met him about 4 times.
Yeah,
One of
with
the
the
nicest,
hat and
one of the nicest, one of the bigger dudes in the room, but the nicest guy in the room.
Absolutely. And never had an enemy, never talked bad about anybody, man. But when that happened, the record was supposed to come out in July, but when he passed away, we paused everything, and we're trying to figure out what needs to happen, and talking with his family and sister and stuff too. The right thing to do is to put this record out. We spent 3 years making it.
Yeah,
he's all over it, and we did 38 songs or something, but we picked 12 to go on the record. So there's so much material done that's out there with him on this material, and so we have to do this and honor him, and just only the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And Revelation is what it's called. So what we did is we're like, let's push the release date back because we want to change the artwork. So we changed the artwork and had a picture on the back with him and that whole thing, and just a memorial tribute deal. So we did that, and then September 8th it drops.
Oh man. So we'll be looking for that, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Bobby, thanks for being on the show, my friend. I appreciate you.
Dude,
great having you. Great
man.
story, great talks, man. Love chatting it up with you, man. Thanks again for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please share this 5-star review, this podcast, if you would. Take it up on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, and check us out on our socials at What's Your One More with the number 1 at What's Your One More with the number 1. Bobby, thanks again for being on the show, my friend. All right, brother.
I got one more shot, I'm gonna make it. One more chance, I'm gonna take it. I meant it when I said it, now it's time for me to do it. I got one life to live, so I put my all into it, yeah.